Joining us is Herb Stewartson, President and Broker Associate with Florida Business Exchange. Herb has nearly 20 years of experience helping business owners buy and sell companies across Florida, and he's been recognized as one of the state's top business brokers. We're excited to have him. Herb, welcome.
Thanks for having me, David.
Okay, so I'd love to start with you, the subject of business brokers and business brokerage. For most people, they just don't have a lot of familiarity with this topic. So what does a business broker do?
Yeah, it's one of those things I'm always amazed by, that roughly 10% of the people I talk to know what we do. The other 90% have no idea. So the easy way to explain our job is we are there to assist business owners when they are ready to sell their business and exit, whether it be for going on to retirement, moving on to the next venture, or maybe there's a difficulty with a family or something in their life that they just can no longer run that business, and they're looking for the greatest return on that investment that they put into it. So we are there to help them value the business, confidentially market that business, and then bring together the buyer and the seller to a successful closing.
Excellent. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack.
Oh yeah.
All right. So the first step then is that the business owner, needs to decide if they've owned their business and they've built it to whatever it is, and for whatever reason, as you say, they're ready to do something different, or they need to sell the business. The first step then is for them to contact and find a business broker in their area.
Right. First thing they want to do is search out a well-known, reputable business broker, somebody who is licensed with the state of Florida, because that's important. We are regulated through the Department of Business and Professional Regulations to be able to sell businesses. And there are a lot of groups that are coming in from outside the state that aren't licensed. They're charging exorbitant fees up front. So it is important for them to find somebody who is local, reputable, and that they feel comfortable with.
That's very good. And for our viewers that are out of state who may be watching the program, of course, they're going to want to look at in their state and brokers that are regulated and who are up to speed for the rules and regulations in their particular venue. So once somebody's done that, then what's the next step? Do they meet with the broker, and do they hire them to represent them? Is this similar to real estate?
It's got a lot of similarities to real estate, where they will engage who that broker is. And the first step really is going to be the valuation. So we will typically start looking at the entire business, from the financials to their operations, how involved is the owner of the business. And we really try to just identify any potential issues to the sale, all right on the front end, because what we've found is that it makes it much smoother down the road when we are actually working with a buyer and we don't hit all of those roadblocks to closing.
Very good. I imagine that there can be twists and turns along the way that you run into, I'm sure, with the decades that you've done.
Every deal, we see something different all the time, and it is a best practice in our industry that we found to really get to know the business on the very front end before we even actually take the full listing and do the marketing, to just understand what issues there are. Because in some cases, we may meet with a seller and determine that their business isn't in a saleable status, and they really need probably 2 more years of corrective action before they're in a position to really achieve that maximum value.
Wow. Well, that would be very insightful to them to know up front. It's almost, and again, we did liken this to real estate. It's a little bit like getting that inspection report before you actually put your house on the market,
Right.
So you have an opportunity to get things in order. How often do you find, you mentioned valuation, and I know this is maybe a loaded question, but how often are the seller's expectations about what they're going to be able to realize from selling the business? How often does that match up with what it's really the value, what the real value is? Is it often that the person thinks it's worth a lot more than it is?
Yeah, oftentimes we have to reset the seller's expectations for what they can achieve from a sale. And it really depends on, whether that seller has maybe bought and sold a business previously and they understand the process. But roughly 80% of business owners have never bought or sold a business. So they're very new, and it's a very uncharted territory for them. So we're all about trying to educate them and help them really understand what that process looks like, how the valuation is how we've come to that valuation for their business, so that they fully understand all of the different, value pillars and how they impact their business overall.
Okay, and so once you've gone through that part of the process, then you mentioned marketing. So the next step is then to market the business to potential buyers on behalf of the seller.
Right. So the where we really earn our keep is in the confidential marketing of the business, because most business owners do not want anyone to know that the business is for sale.
Right.
It impacts many aspects of the business. Employees can leave, customers can leave, even exclusive supplier agreements can go away. So it's really important for us to really do a good job at the confidential marketing of it. So we will talk about all of the passive marketing that we will do on different websites that are geared strictly towards selling businesses. And then we also will talk about our strategic marketing plan for that business, which may be running an auction format where we take it to market without a price and we try to get as much interest in it from our buyer pool and get the seller the best possible price. Or we may just do a strategic targeted marketing of potential suitors within that particular industry.
Okay, somebody that might match up and have an interest and want to, increase the size of the total entity that they have by adding that to what they already have.
Right. They could be a strategic or a synergistic buyer that's going to see maybe additional value in that business for what their own purposes are. So
somebody that may be somewhere else in the distribution channel, maybe a manufacturer looking for distribution or retail, and so kind of either doing it, combining it or making it part of a more strategic and potentially could create higher value that way.
Right. And one of the things that I think your audience should always take into account is the fact that you never know where the buyer is going to come from, right? And we can have a lot of preconceived notions about where that might be. More often than not, it ends up coming from a completely different direction. So it's really important to always have that open mind and keep that marketing as broad as possible so that we can attract the maximum amount of attention for that business. Very
good. And so once you've gone through that process, obviously there's a big part of your role is to screen the buyers, and then you basically are negotiating, and the buyer may be represented by a broker as well. And so there's a negotiation, again, like real estate, where you bring that to a sale, and that's to put a bow around it, that's what this really is all about accomplishing.
Right, and like in any sales job, you have people who are tire kickers, right? They are in love with the idea of buying a business, right, but they really don't have the means or the expertise or the financial backing or anything to be able to do that. So we're going to focus on really qualifying those buyers before we waste any of the seller's time. And that's, being the gatekeeper for that is an important aspect, because what we don't want to do is unnecessarily expose the business, and we don't want to waste the seller's time with unqualified buyers.
Excellent. Very good. Herb Stewartson, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.